Sublimation printing is a process of transferring pictures from paper to the item of your choice, i.e. mugs, plates, acrylic photo blocks and more. There are several types of sublimation paper on the market, and some are better for using on fabrics while others on mugs and plates, etc. And some papers are also designed to work with specific inks for optimum performance, and the same can be said for normal printing. There are several makes of inks on the market and obviously come in different sized bottles, and some branded inks have been specially designed to work with certain papers to give optimum performance. And for the transfer of your picture to an item, you must use sublimation ink and not normal ink, as this will not transfer. It's also important to print out all your pictures and then choose the correct one for the item that you wish to print onto. As printing onto plates, etc., you will need to leave quite a lot at the top and sides of the person or group. Once you've chosen the picture of your choice, then you need to load it into an editing suite where you can alter the contrast, the colour or brightness of that picture. There are many printers on the market. Some are A4 in format and some are A3. Obviously an A3 one will take 6 cartridges and an A4 will take 4. Printing to a disc. It's important, again, that you choose the right paper and the colour and the contrast of your picture. But once you've chosen this, then it's important to cut it. When pressing plates, it is better if you cut your picture in a circle. It makes it easier for lining up when laying on your plate. And the cutter that I'm using is called a Fiskus circle cutter, and I'm also using what they call an A3 self-healing board. This means that you can cut into it as many times as you want and it more or less comes back like brand new. I'm also sellotaping the picture down to the baseboard for obvious reasons. One is I don't want it to move when I actually cut it. It's also important to let your picture dry before you attempt to cut it, because what can tend to happen is your cutter then tears at the picture and then you have to start again. I always give between 5 to 7 millimeters over and above what I need to press on the plate, and the reason being is when you put your picture on the plate, even though you've got it sellotaped down, it can sometimes move when you bring your press down. So that 5 to 7 millimeters gives you a little bit of added security. I think with all this it's important to remember patience and take your time, don't rush, and if necessary practice cutting just ordinary pieces of paper, because then when you actually do cut your picture that you've chosen, you won't tear it and you'll know the right pressure to put on the centre. Even strokes will make sure that you get a perfect circle. Sometimes you may have to go slightly backwards and forwards to ensure that you get a good cut. With this circle cutter you can select different sizes. I've marked with a black marker pen the size that I need for a 10-inch plate or a 7-inch plate or a 5-inch plate. Makes it easier then just to set it and cut. Again, care must be taken when you're actually bringing the waste paper off that you don't tear into the picture, as this again will mean you have to start from scratch. and there it is, an almost perfect circle, correctly positioned and ready to lay on the plate for pressing. This is what they call an 8-in-1 swing press, because the top part comes off and we can add different attachments to print onto caps or plates or several other items. It's a swing press because the top part swings all the way around to the back, making it easier to lay your paper on the item and position it correctly. Then swing it round to the front, bring your handle down. This part of the press is where we set both the temperature and the time. It's important to make sure that the correct time and temperature is set to ensure that you get a good transfer of your picture, i.e. a plate will have a temperature of 160 and it will be pressed for 6 minutes. A rock plate will be 190 degrees Celsius and it will be pressed at 6 minutes. The silver plate, again, will be around about 185 to 190 for 55 seconds. And rock plates, or slate plates as some people call them, will be pressed round about 190 for 6 minutes. The rock plate, or slate photo block as some people call it, has a serrated edge and a matte surface, not a high quality photographic surface, but this does add to its attractiveness. This will be pressed at 190 Celsius for 6 minutes. I always put anything that I want to press onto in the centre of the press itself. Although there are springs on the top plate, I think that it evens it out better. You get a better all over contact. Once you've got your picture on top of your item to be pressed, then I use heat sellotape, not ordinary sellotape, but it must be heat sellotape, to make sure that the paper doesn't move when bringing the press down. On some items this can be awkward, particularly like mouse mats, because they've got a 3 to 5 millimeter rubber backing and sellotape doesn't very well stick to it. Once everything is in place and you're happy with the position and everything else, then it's important with these rock pictures that you use a heat mat. Now a heat mat is just a flexible silicone sheet that you place over the actual rock plate itself. This makes sure that if there is any undulations or any uneven part of the surface, then the rubber matting or silicone matting will then make sure that it presses down into these parts that are uneven, and and make sure that it presses okay. Again, bring the press down very slowly. This is why I say about making sure it's sellotaped well, because as you saw there, it did move slightly. And then it's a case of waiting until your temperature and your time tell you that it's time to bring the press off. And after 6 minutes, your picture should be transferred from the paper onto the item, i.e. in this case the rock picture. Again, one should use oven gloves and I'm not. And then very carefully peel the paper off. With some items, if you find when you peel the paper back that it's not been pressed quite enough, you can then bring the press back down. But with these items, rock pictures and others, you can't do that. then you should really let the item cool down before moving it. But obviously if you're pressing other things straight after, then you have to move it, and oven gloves, as I've said before, should be used. Provided you've got several pictures already printed, while one is being pressed, you can always line your next one up, i.e. the silver plate, put your picture onto it, sellotape it, and then by the time the previous one's pressed, you're ready for this one. That way you use most of the heat and electricity economically. Again, you can see the amount of steam coming from the press. This is because the ink has been evaporated. It can't go anywhere, so it's absorbed into the polymer of the actual item. And again, carefully removing the paper will reveal whether your picture has come out to your satisfaction. If not, you print it again. But if so, again, just leave it till it cools down.